entry, a photograph, an infographic slide, or a video is spread far and wide. Velocity and amplification are the lifeblood of successfully using social media for politics. So engage with people that can help amplify your message. If you get people to retweet, to forward, to like, then you have gained traction. And better still, if you get people to positively modify and add on to your message, then you've actually succeeded as far as social media is concerned. So it doesn't matter how many followers you have, it doesn't matter how many people like you, if they're not actively amplifying your message to make sure your message has velocity and travels far and wide, then there's no use having 500,000 followers or 100,000 followers, because they're not doing that work for you. And you can check your cloud score, you can check your influence on social media. That's the real measure of your success on social media as opposed to just your popularity. And the eighth C is conversion. And this is what Jason and Jeremy spoke about. There must be in real life action, because for politics, it's the votes that count. For business, it's the sales number that count. It's not your number of followers, it's not the number of likes. If you cannot convert your followers and likes into votes for politicians and into sales, if you're a business, then your strategy has failed. Because if you're boasting about your social media numbers and they're not translated into what really matters to you, then your strategy hasn't succeeded, because your conversion rate is very, very low. Now, these 8 C's are not exhaustive, but it's guided me in my use of social media for political communications. Actually, there's one last C to bear in mind. This is the 9th C, but it's nothing to do with how you manage it, but it's rather something that you should be aware of all the time. And the last C is change. Social media is never constant. Platforms, trends, memes, they change every day. So politicians must stay on the lookout for the next change, the next social media platform. It may be Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, it may be Pinterest today, it can be something else tomorrow. It was Gangnam Style yesterday, it's the Harlem Shake today, it's definitely something else tomorrow. So if you don't constantly change and stay ahead of the curve, you will lose. So these are the C's to bear in mind for political communication. I don't know if it served me well, because as you know, the conversion for me hasn't happened yet. It's about to happen in a couple of weeks when we go through the elections. So hopefully there is conversion there. So these are the C's that I've lived by and tried to make social media at least effective as far as I'm concerned now. Numbers of followers, retweets, and stuff like that. But ultimately, it'll be tested, when we go into real life, when we go to the elections, and we see how well we've done with the 8 C's. So thank you very much, and don't forget, vote Barisan Nasional at the next election.
Thank you so much, Kyrie. Well, I like your last point on change, because it's really relevant, because like a few years ago, we were talking about blogging and all that, and this year we're talking about other platforms like Twitter and Facebook, and who knows, for Malaysia's Social Media Week 2014, perhaps there are other platforms as well, and we have a different topic to talk about next year. But before we move on to the Q&A session, I would just like to ask our guest, Jeremy, because we're talking about Generation Y, and we have a lot of Generation Y Malaysians here. If you could introduce to us the Generation Y in the United States and the conversations that goes on in that part of the world.
I can do my best, that's for sure. I think, I don't want to speak for an entire generation in the United States, but it's definitely regional. I think, at least where I live now and I'm from in San Francisco, California, there's a lot of early adopters. We're pretty used to, we grow up, we know this technology, we're used to social media, and I think we are also used to the fact that we're okay with giving up some level of privacy in order to engage in these platforms that allow us to use and receive all sorts of new information and to communicate with one another on a whole different level. It's really up the ante, I think, and as the other panelists have pointed out too, there's a lot of new iterations that are happening, a lot of new more different companies and platforms that are taking off right now. But to reel it back to your question, I think yes, we're just pretty comfortable at this point. We're used to this. We grew up with this, and we understand the exchange of what taking part in participating in social media, what we give up for it, and I think we have a pretty good understanding of the ramifications and the pace of flexibility and change that does occur.
Thank you so much, Jeremy. I think we'll move on to the Q&A session. So I should just stand, keep it informal and conversational for the Q&A session. It's open to the floor. If you have any question, just raise your hand.
Here.
Okay.
I'm with the mic.
There.
I have questions for all three of you. I'll start with Jason Low. Jason?
Where are you? Put up your hand, please. Thank you.
She's coming.
Yeah. Because the thing is, right, I understand that for Tune Talk, right, your main source of income is prepaid. Okay, I used to work in DG and now Maxis kind of sucks.
Oh, you poor thing.
Okay, yeah, but the thing is, right, for prepaid, I really admire you. But what is your next direction for year 2013 and 14? Will you actually take up postpaid to actually get them a run for their money? That is my first question to you.
Thank you for your question.
Okay,
which has
do you want me to
nothing
continue
do.
asking that few questions before
Okay,
you...
we'll start with the questions first, and then we address to the speakers.
Okay.
So move on.
And then the second one, right, would be to Jeremy and Kyrie. Because ever since I ever start tweeting on politics, well, I got 100 followers a day, and some of them really gave some really nasty remarks and all that. Luckily for me, I got Dato Sri Hishamuddin in my defense.
Lucky you.
Yeah, lucky me. But the thing is, right, I want to know if in terms of in America, right, or in Malaysia per se, do you have anyone to govern this kind of language and all that? Because the thing is, it's really impolite for some people to actually use this kind of unnecessary remarks, especially when the person doesn't really know me. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. So Jason, your very first question.
I'll try to keep my answer brief because it doesn't really have much to do with social media. I'll just say that Malaysia is still a majority prepaid market. Not everyone lives in Bangsa, okay?
You do, don't you? You do, right?
Yeah, I do.
You do live in
Thanks.
Bangsa? Yeah, okay, all right.
Who lives in Damansar Heights? Yeah, you want to go there?
Okay, enough.
So bear in mind that a lot of people, Malaysians are habitual. We are creatures of habit. We like to know where we pay our bills. We like to know how much we pay. Where we are going next, though, is with prepaid auto top-up so that we don't have to go through the rigmarole of having a postpaid setup. But don't forget, things are happening so fast and changing so fast that you really have to embrace what's coming tomorrow. Everything is changing, you know. Before, I remember the days when there was just Nokias. Remember those old phones, Nokias? Yeah. Remember those? Anybody still have one? Then suddenly the smartphone changed because BlackBerry came in and created BB Messenger, BBM. That was how to pick up chicks, BBM. Yeah. If you give her a number, an SMS, maybe 4 SMSs a day. But if you had her BBM, definitely you will. You know. And then everyone thought that was it for BBM, of course. And then iPhone came out. Steve Jobs said, "Here's my muscle. I'm gonna launch iPhone." iPhone came out and became the #1 smartphone, and everyone thought that was it. But no, a small company called Google said, "I got the bigger muscle," and released an open source Android. And it's going to change as well because what's coming next? I mean, we have a whole bunch of things coming next right now. The Mozilla, right? Is coming out. There's going to be so many platforms coming out. Everything's moving so fast. Just pick the brand you want to stay with. The one who's going to save you the most money. Tune Talk, obviously. Thank you.
Tune Talk, huh? Thank you so much, Jason. Okay, we move on to the second question. Jeremy and Kyrie on social media and politics.
Give it a go first.
Okay. I think the question was directed more to Jeremy than me, but the thing about social media is that that the nature of social media is that it's open, it's social. So you have a choice if to be involved in social media, to engage in social media or not. See, if you decide to to engage people on social media, then you have to take everything that comes with it. Especially as a politician that engages in social media, you have to expect that most of the things that you say will get a reaction, good or bad, and sometimes more bad than good, because bad reactions are more forthcoming than agreements. Agreements will be retweets mostly, even though retweets do not necessarily mean endorsements. But if somebody has something strong to say against you, they'll definitely go out there and say it. And sometimes it's civil, and sometimes it's not. I don't think you should have an agency, a government agency that monitors this, because that goes against the spirit of the freedom on social media. You are free to block the person. I know a lot of politicians who block people, clearly you're one of them, right? I don't block anyone, because I want my social media experience to approximate real life as much as possible. If I start blocking people and I'm only able to see people who say nice things about me or my party, then I'm living in a la-la land. As a politician, you have
I thought Rais Yatim is blocking people. Sorry? Rais Yatim is doing all the blocking.
I'm speaking for myself now, Jason. I'm just speaking for myself. So I try and approximate the experience. It's important for me to approximate the social media experience with real life, because otherwise it's meaningless. Otherwise you're just in an echo chamber. An echo chamber is when you say something, it echoes and comes back to you, because the same old, your acolytes, your supporters are saying the same thing. I don't want to be in an echo chamber. I want to be in real life as much as possible.
Yeah, I think you said it perfect. I mean, our at least where I come from too, based our founding principles of our country is based on free speech, and as you said, that to engage in social media, that is the essence of you're engaging in this exchange. You're in this equation now, in this process. So it's just the world we live in right now, and I think you have to be, of course, be careful and understand that when you put things out there, but I think that there's positives that come from it, because if you do receive criticism, if you do put questions out and work in a participatory manner, I think some good things can arise, some collaborative things can arise. Of course, there are things that are just deriding and just chip away and kind of take away from messages that are out there, but there's ways to mitigate, there's tools, there's ways to curate. You just have to be vigilant. I believe you had mentioned that in your speech. You have to be vigilant about it. So,
thank you so much. Okay, before we move on, how many of you are actually tweeting to Kyrie right now? Are you guys expecting a reply after this? Are you guys expecting a reply? He'll reply to you.
Conversation C.
Conversation C.
Conversation
So
C.
we're listening, right? So he'll reply to some of you. Okay, let's move on to the next question. Okay, you in the front second row.
Hello, Mr. Jeremy. I hope this doesn't sound insulting at all, because that's not. I feel it may sound like this, but it's not.
It's a good start.
Are you somewhat familiar with the Malaysian social media scene? Like, do you follow the blogosphere and stuff like that?
I have not been able to very much. I mean, not that I haven't been able to. It hasn't been in my world too much until recently. I have actually. I was very lucky that in San Francisco I was able to meet Altia Lim and Vincent Ha of Gush Cloud, who actually was the impetus for me being able to join here in person in the first place. So I'm definitely getting an education and learning quite a lot about all of it, and very excited too. There's clearly differences, but it's just the space of innovation right now that they're both moving parallel for sure.
Great. Mr. Kyrie, if I may, what are your thoughts on the mentality that Malaysian social media users have? Are we using it correctly? Are we using it well?
Wow. I don't want to be accused of making a sweeping generalization against Malaysians on the eve of a general election, so I better handle this very carefully. I think Malaysians are great. I think all Malaysians are responsible. No, but seriously, if you allow me some levity, some room in speaking my mind without penalizing me at the elections, look, it's not just a Malaysian thing. I think it goes with anybody out there. You know, you take any country, there are people who are logical, rational, reasonable, and there are many people who are also psychologically unstable. Just basically, frankly, put it like that.
I don't think you should be talking about Singapore right now. This is a forum it's not the right forum.
Okay. Sorry, where was I? No, but at the same time, you know, I don't want to generalize, but I think after a while, when you are in social media, you learn to separate the music from the noise. The noise is all the stuff that's basically irrational, trolls, people who are there just to prove a point, just to take a cheap shot at you, using social media irresponsibly. And there's the music. The music is what makes things work. And I think Malaysia has a great social media scene. I mean, you know, just in terms of our penetration, in terms of our ranking, Facebook, we punch way above our weight. And that's something that we should celebrate. Of course, there's a lot of bad stuff out there. But at the same time, I think most social media users in Malaysia are savvy enough after a while to know, even without blocking people, that this guy is not somebody that, you know, you want to meet in a dark alley in real life. And these are people who are actually there to build a better ecosystem. And I come back to the first question just very briefly. The moment you start shutting out voices which are weird, which do not correspond to your sense of propriety, then you lose that richness of social media. You have to find the music in the noise. There has to be noise there for you to find the music. And just let the noise be, because once in a while you will find, you know, a great chord or a great note in all that noise. And, you know, that's why you should have this multitude of voices out there, even though some of it is just, you know, plainly abusing social media.
Thank you, Kyrie. Perhaps Jason could answer the question as well. Apart from the tweeting about Tune Talk and Nasi Lemak, what do you think about the social media landscape in Malaysia among Generation Y?
I think it's incredibly rich. I mean, it's no secret that Malaysia has one of the most active communities in terms of social media. I mean, Facebook-wise, I think we're number 3 behind the Philippines and the US or someone else, I don't know. Yeah, we're up there. We're up there. Everyone has a Facebook account because we don't go out much. We stay at home.
Well, it's mobile too, so.
Yeah, it's mobile too, that's right. Good point, good point. Hey, Americans come here and tell us how to do our own Facebook. Damn it. So it's enlightening because, you know, I remember I was talking to my marketing team, you know, I said, guys, you know, social media, how engaged are we? And my marketing team was like, we are very engaged. I got 63 followers on Twitter. I was like, what? Can I add everyone up? And I added everyone up. And I'm like, guys, between the whole marketing team, I had 1,000 people on followers on Twitter. And I said, look, that leaves 27.8 million people in Malaysia, you know, including the Indonesians who don't have passports, who we don't even know about. Yeah. And I said, how are we supposed to engage people? Then I ran over to my customer care team. I said, okay, you know, our marketing team has 1,000 people. And one of my customer care girls said, I got 3,000. I was like, really? You're out of customer care, you're running our social media team now. So I graduated them from customer care. And you will find these people in the most unlikely places. You know, I've met people like, you know, there's a guy from KFC. He said, look, hey, can I take a picture with you and tweet you? And he tweeted me and I was like, what? 36,000 followers? How does someone do that? You know, he's obviously doing something really, really right. So there's a lot of people, a lot of bloggers, a lot of social engagers who are doing something quite amazing out there. You know, and I think it's really important for us to find out what these people are doing, find out what they're saying, because they have influence, and find out why they're influencing people. That's the job of big companies, social media teams, to try to figure out what's going on with Gen Y, Z, Gen A1, A2, A3, whatever Gen you're talking about. Yeah. So it's incredibly rich, is my answer, and it's probably richer than a lot of developed countries, I think.
Right. Thank you, Jason.
I was just going to add too, that it's an evolving thing. I think that even though there's a lot of early adopters in America, in the Bay Area, in California, and a lot of it originated from there. It doesn't mean that we know exactly what we're doing every second in terms of tweeting and putting things on Facebook. There's different platforms to use. There's different ways to use these strategies. If you are, we're also talking about different level. If we're talking about me tweeting about something in my daily life versus an elected official talking about an issue or trying to get a clear message across in an effective way, that has to be crafted and really thought about. There's all sorts of nuances that go along with that, I think.
Jeremy, as I go through the Twitter timeline, we have all the participants tweeting about this session as well. And they've tweeted to Kyrie, they've tweeted to Jason, they've tweeted to myself. And when I was invited to moderate this session, I was trying to do my research on Google about you. And I couldn't find you on Twitter. Are you on Twitter?
The ironic thing is I do not have a Twitter account. There's reasoning for this though. So exactly. So I've worked in communications in press and for elected officials from city, mayors to state legislatures and for the president's campaign in 2008. And not only is there a lot to manage, you have new media teams that are a new media person that actually is in the press team for elected officials. It's a lot to manage for in general, but also I just don't think I'm not really allowed to voice certain things probably all the time, and it probably wouldn't be a good idea because as working in those capacities, you reflect on the office, on the constituency you represent, and I would never want to have that frivolous moment. That affected someone negatively. So,
all right, thank you, Jeremy, for answering that question. Let's open to the floor again. Let's get a question from this side. Any questions?
All right. Hello, everybody. My next question is for YB Kyrie.
Can you please stand?
Yeah, I'm standing.
She is standing.
She's right behind. I'm so sorry.
Take it easy, man. She's standing. You don't want to talk,
Okay, go ahead.
My question is for YB Khairi. Yeah. Okay, I'm a lecturer in a private college. Okay, so when I teach, right, we know our audience. Okay, let's say if it is SPM leavers, different kind of audience. Okay, we have to tone down. If it is adult students or part-time students, we have to level up. Right? So how does YB Khairi structure his sentences on Twitter so that it is, and content as well, so that it is well or generally accepted by all?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Great question. And without revealing too much of my personal trade secrets, it's a very, very prescient question because the way you tweet actually has a big impact on the audience that you're trying to target. I said consistent earlier about the content of what you say, which means basically you can't have a diametrically opposite view about a policy, which just means that you are hypocritical. But in terms of stress, tone, and language, that obviously can vary when you want to reach out to different people. First thing is language, your choice of language. There are certain tweets in English and some tweets that I do in Malay, and that depends on the topic that I'm addressing. So that's very important. If I want to get a message out there to a more urbane crowd, then obviously it might be in English. If it's out there for a more sort of grassroots audience, then it will be in BM. And if I can't decide, I'll do it Rojak, or I'll do 2 tweets, like one in English and one in Malay. So that's quite important. And how you approach it is also, the language is one thing, style is another thing. The style of how you say it. If it's a younger audience, I may use bastardized language, like like in Malay, you would use L-E-T-T-E-W, letu. to get a point across to younger social media users. And that immediately grabs their attention because they don't care what I'm saying. They're just amazed that I'm using that word. So I've caught their attention. So it's very important, your style and the language that you use. And also the last one, and this is really revealing secrets, is the timing of your posting. You see, I've noticed that if you tweet something in the middle of the day, it reaches out to a very different audience than if you tweet something at 3 a.m. If you tweet in the middle of the day, you are more likely to reach out to sane, law-abiding citizens. If you tweet at 3 a.m., so the timing of your tweet is also very important, who you want to reach out to and what sort of impact you want to make. And of course, you want to catch the news cycle as well. So if you tweet something at night, no one's going to pick up on that.
Thank you. Next question, can we have that gentleman over there?
Just
Do you want me to come over?
Just shout really loud. We'll hear you.
Shout really loud. This question is for Jeremy, right? Okay, great. Basically, I'm not sure whether you faced this or encountered this in the US, but when you talk about social media, it's about there are certain pockets or certain areas where connection might not be so good. So what often happens is that in those areas where it's well connected, you have an intense amount of information being gathered. And in certain areas where you have less connection, then there's a mismatch in the amount of information that people are getting. So how does the US government then balance these two mismatches, or make sure that the message being sent across is actually consistent to everybody?
Thank you.